Hey everybody. As you can see, some things have changed. I have stepped into the world or vortex of doom to some known as modular. I thought that maybe I should give you all a new rig rundown or episode of rigs, if you will. Showing you which modules I picked and why, and how it all works in my setup currently. This setup that I'll be showcasing will be used at the coming shows here at the end of September and October, and then into next year most likely. I'd like to do some traveling with this rig, and it is very capable of that. A little bit of backstory. Before I had this, I had a Moog Sub 37, some pedals and a looper, all in some flight cases, and it was incredible, but not always good depending on what mode of transportation you'll be using. You might be flying, you might be on a bus, you might be on a train, you might be driving, but you can't always account for having two large flight cases, unless, again, money isn't an issue, in which case, never mind. You can carry anything you want with you. You could bring a church organ if you really wanted to, but for those of us who aren't working with Capitol Records, I had to kind of make it work with what I have. So when I was in Texas, I stopped in it, switched on in Austin, and these guys were really great and they helped me out a lot. I transferred all of my audio and visual gear over into the modular realm, and I have what I have before me. I had to get a couple things to make this work, and there's some things that I have found workarounds and or workflows that I will be going over in other videos. I'll be breaking down individually what modules I have found to be useful and their tips and tricks. Tune in for those episodes coming up. But I'm just going to go over each module right now that I have, and then I'm also going to be going over how it works in the system as a whole, as an overall system, overarching. So we'll start at the overall view, as you can see. So I'm trying to do everything almost duplicated to a certain degree. To the farthest left, we have our MIDI ins. So I've got a Mother 32 that has a MIDI converter in it, and then I've got a Pittsburgh MIDI 1, which the guys that switched on were able to provide me, so I was able to have lots of MIDI capabilities. When I got the system, I didn't even have enough to get a keyboard yet, so I had to use my iPad, and the only way to send a signal stably to this was to convert it from MIDI to CV. So I've had the converter here, and then the Mother has helped with its patch bay. Now I use the Arturia keystep, covered it in a little bit of mirror tape there. Pretty handy. The CV is a little wonky, so that's why, yes, I do still use MIDI. It is reliable for me, and it works 95% of the time. I'm going to be going over MIDI and why I use it probably in one of these videos here pretty soon. I understand that it's outdated, but I have not once gotten CV to work perfectly. So you're going to notice that in a similarity. The MIDIs are on the left side. And there's not really too much to go over. Obviously, this Pittsburgh MIDI has the ability to send CC, CV, and gate. I only use the CV and gate sections. I am still learning, I guess. I would absolutely love to upgrade to one of the newer MIDIs that allows you to send clock continuously, because that's one of my little hang-ups here with this looper, and I'm having to try to distribute clock evenly. But let's go ahead and move on to the most crucial part of every system, the oscillators. So as you can see, the Mother is a big chunk of the system, so that's obviously a main oscillator. You've got a square wave or pulse width, and you've got your sawtooth. However, the best thing about it, of course, is that you've got this wonderful patch bay over here. You've got noise. You can patch both of these into the mixer and mix that into the external audio, so then you have like a customized waveform, and you can maybe mix it here at the external audio. You can mix it between one of the true originals and a mixed combination, whatever you want. Obviously, you can also put anything in to the mother and have it run through the system path. But getting a little ahead of ourselves, as far as wonderful, warm, rich analog oscillators, the Mother 32 is, I mean, I'm sure there are great things out there, but for me, it's a quick and fast and easy reach. Having owned several Moogs now, I'm kind of familiar with the sound. It's a sound that I prefer, and it's quick for me to work with. However, this is highly modifiable and modulatable, so I really appreciate the work that they went through on this, and I'm excited to see what they've got going on next. However, my top half has the braids oscillator. So anybody who knows anything about braids knows that it's basically the super oscillator. You can have lots and lots and lots of digitals. Just to give you one of my favorite uses, again, this is a modular system, but this wavetable times 4 with this knob here, with the color knob, I can select my chords that I'd like to use. So it'll give you majors and octaves and all sorts of fun chords. So maybe you might not have access to a soft synth, or you might not be able to do a chord, or even have the knowledge of chords. That's one really fast and handy module that will then give you a chord out of one output. Which, I mean, that's just, I mean, for those who are capable and have music theory in the back of their head, then it's an asset. For those who have no idea, it's a learning tool, I would say, to start grasping what you like and do and don't like about sounds and chords and voicings. The next is, okay, I guess this is clearly a West Coast, or excuse me, this is an East Coast system, because I have a very subtractive form of synthesis going on. So as you can see, we go right from the oscillators into the filter on the Moog, and the same goes for the top. I've got the 5089, which is a Moog replication between Studio Electronics and Pittsburgh. So it's basically a Moog filter. This Moog filter is it's a sharp edge. It's very, but it's also the chunks, I would say, I don't know how else to say this, but the chunks are larger, whereas this is a finer and smoother filter, but the chunks are very small. It's very, the granules that you would hear when this thing is doing a filter sweep are so small. It's very silky, actually, compared to the Mother, but the Mother has this beef, this presence. I don't know how else to describe it other than it's a Moog. So next we've got this Quadra I use for my envelopes. This has the ability, I've got some running. So I've got repeating envelopes that can just constantly run, or you can trigger them, set them up. So I usually set it up so it's filter and amp. Obviously the Mother has that section as well. You've got your attack decay, and you've got a VCA mode. You can use your envelope generator, or you can have it just run continuous and have something else control it. Next, I'd like to go over warps. Well, see, warps just got an upgrade, and I did the upgrade, and it's amazing, of course. The only thing, though, is that before I was using the delay mode, and it had a chorus flanger effect, and it was really handy and fast for me. Now the delay mode is like a really beautiful tape delay, beautifully designed. I absolutely love it. However, there's the chorus and flange option is not as easily and quickly gotten to, and they took the LFOs out, and I was kind of a big fan of those. So I'm having to find a new way of coloring a tone, or having it be a. This was kind of, I was using this for vocoding. I was having this used for my send and returns, for effects. It was really nice. So now it's such a full-fledged like double delay plus all the other things it does, wave shaper, wave folder, all that stuff. I'm like, it's got a lot going on. However you use your warps, bless you. The newest firmware, incredible, check it out. But I feel like warps is, it's like it's always changing. I'm never using it the same every day, because it's like, it's a powerhouse in that thing. I've already spent way too much time on it. I'm going to go ahead and zoom a little bit out. I've got these mults here. Mults are important for everybody. I even have a silly little passive mult here. But I have this right next to the mother. Kind of completes the aesthetic a little bit, but the idea is that all this stuff will need communication sent somewhere. One of the things that I have that I use, actually, thanks to control voltage, I have on here the mod. I'll use the mod. Thanks to control voltage, they sent me a glow-in-the-dark cable. So I'll use the mod out of the key step over here. Then I'll mult that, and then I'll send that to the filters and other stuff. It's really handy. Speaking of delays, this is where it gets a little insane. So the warps is there. That can be a delay. I've got the chrono blob, which is a delay. Can get a little bit of chorus out of it. But it can do some insane glitch fun stuff. We're really happy that is that way. And then it's clock syncable, so it's really, really handy in the modular world. Right next to it, I've got Clouds. Clouds it's a granular synthesizer, for sure. Texture synthesizer, however you want to call it. It does amazing things. I was torn between this and the herb verb, but the herb verb only does one thing. Clouds does 5 things, and it does those 5 things very, 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 very well. So I went with Clouds. I have not regretted it. The newest firmware update, probably the last, but oh my lord, wow, it's incredible. It does really sound very, very, very good. And the functionality is just a hair easier, and I'm definitely a big fan of it. So I use what they call the Ollie verb, or the big reverb, inside Clouds, but every once in a while I'll use the other modes for more experimental sounds. And then here's, for me, this was the coup de grace. Don't get me wrong, every other module is absolutely beautiful, and I love them. They all have their unique functionality, but I realized something after doing a couple months of sequencing only, and having to use software for looping and recording and all that stuff. I had to come back home to looping, and that's where the dual looping delay comes back in. And I'm still learning, and I'm still kind of getting everything wrapped around it, but seriously, as far as writing and recording and getting riffs, I would say judged, because I don't keep everything, and it'll sit on the loop, and if it's any good, then I'll go backwards and I'll try to learn the riff that's in there. If it's not any good, then it gets flushed out, and then I move on to the next loop or riff or whatever inspiration is coming through that jam. So for me, it's an indispensable item. And again, let's say you can't be doing your chords in this way. Maybe you want to do it in a more traditional manner, with a Moog Voyager sound, but you want to have Moog Voyager polyphony. Well, all you have to do is do your 3 notes, but loop them one at a time, layered, and then you have your chord. There's a lot of, any kind of music can afford to use looping, any type, because it's inspiring in it, and it can only take you farther, I feel like. But man, in modular, when everything is right there, when all the jacks are there, all the voltages, all the sounds, it makes life convenient and amazing, and you get a lot of happy accidents, and then you can capture them, and they don't just disappear into the night. It's nice. I've got a blank space here and here. Yes, and not much though. In the, if you look at the whole system, we're down to the home stretch here. I would like to fill these with Pico modules. I would like to put in some drums that I could upload some samples to. I would like to fit in a trigger and a mixer. That way I can have all my drums right here. Bass drum, snare drum, hi-hat, triggers or sequencers running, a mixer to mix it in with everything else, and I think I would be complete deep down. And then I guess let's just finish it off. I have the Microphony, which is a really cool contact microphone. Now I know Mutable Instruments just put out ears, and so that's got, I think, 2 more capabilities on it. I think it's got an envelope and a gate out. So but the thing is, if you have that capability on other modules, if other modules can receive a loud pulse or noise and then send out gate, then you don't need to have to buy another one of those. But this thing is so handy if you are looking to bring outside ambience into the modular, if you're looking to tap on your system and make music. There are videos out there. I'd recommend checking it out. I hope you can hear me. I might have just muted the microphone. Check it out. It's a beautiful tool. You might like it. You might never use it. So it's totally up to you and what kind of music you make. And last but not least, on the actual modular, I've got the Pittsburgh outs. So I can take my stereo modular level system sound, and I can either listen to it with headphones or send it out via mono 1/4-inch jacks. And a little secret, I'm sure everybody's always known about it, but I use the modular or the Monster acoustic cable for my left side always. I know there's all sorts of controversy as far as Monster and their cables and their technology, but I've always used the acoustic cable for my left side to try to bring out as many tones, as many colors as possible, whether they be extra bass tones or extra frequencies that might not be present in any other cable. So that's one of my little tips and tricks I'll pass along. I've already discussed the key step. So the key step is how I send notes, and I will use the mod strip and the pitch bend strip as well in the modular system. Now, to keep everything connected besides the key step, I do use an iPad still. I would, like I said, I'd like to get some drum modules so that I can completely not need to use any form of external clock, but it is something that keeps everything running to a certain degree smoothly. I have issues sometimes, but not as often as I used to with the other slower iPads. And then I guess, how does this all connect, right? Okay, well, that's the funny question. So right here, if we go down into the depths, I've got a iConnect with a MIDI through right here. So that way that I can run the out from the key step to the modules as well as the iPad, and the iPad can also send its signal, its MIDI signal, in to the key step and then keep everything in sync. So that's how I kind of sync everything together. And it works for me. I would, again, like to have my drums in the rack so then we can just drop the computer or tablet, whatever, phone, anything that's not in the system, and then move forward with everything in one box. I'd really like that. Also, how does this all work together? Sometimes when I want to record a video for you guys, I will record it with my iRig Pro Duo. So this acts as an interface. I can receive at least the 2 signals in. So sometimes I will record this right off of the interface, or I'll record right out of the system. Sometimes I'll have this connected to the iPad, and I'll have this running MIDI and audio for the iPad, and taking audio in to loop on the iPad. A lot is going on with this brain of mine. So this is handy. So when I do these 4K videos with high quality sound, this has been my saving grace, because as soon as the new operating systems came out for Apple, my old Apogee Jam became completely useless. So if you want to record in high quality, you need to upgrade to high quality audio, and this one works for me pretty good. I can't really hate on it. It's actually worked out pretty dang good. Pretty handy. All right. And so how does that translate to a studio, or how does that translate to music and accomplishments and so on, right? Okay, well, I'll tell you. So right here is my little rig. This is how I get all of my stuff accomplished. I've got the Akai here, EIE. I know, insert farmer joke. However, this thing has served. I've had multiple of these over the years. I know it's not the Pro, so there's a little bit of a lower quality in audio, maybe. I don't know, but it works, and it gets most all the points across, especially in a jam situation, or when you have multiple people, or if you have multiple inputs like I do. As you can see, I've got left and right from the modular, left and right from the iPad, and so I've got all the spots taken up. But this does have a this has auxiliary inputs and outputs if you wanted to do auxiliary send and returns in the back. This also has 3 USB plugs in the back too, so it's kind of like a hub if you needed to not charge but use maybe other like a controller, or maybe 3 controllers. Let's just be honest about Akai, or not Akai, but Ableton Live. Lots of USB controllers can be used. So this is kind of a handy mobile studio interface that I've been using for quite a while, and it gets me by. And then the end of it is it all ends up here in the MacBook Pro, and that's just the way things work, you know. I have something that works for me, and that happens to be Logic and Apple's design. And so I'll use the MacBook Pro, and I will have all my stuff done in Logic, and I'll record it all, and then I'll work as far as EQing, mixing, and mastering in there. This is the main interface I use to capture everything, and then this is the main instrument that I use. I don't have any guitars or any drums or anything anymore. This is literally it. But it does so much more than a singular instrument could do. It's a pit to fall into for sure, and I'm definitely happy to have the opportunity to do it. I'm excited to see the future and where this takes me. Going to be opening up a Patreon account, so if anybody is interested in supporting my future endeavors, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'd like to travel with this system. I'd like to not do traditional performances, but more soundscapes that take a lot more time, and they're more for the energy of a space than they are for someone, for more maybe than a group of people trying to get intoxicated. Not really interested in playing shows for that crowd necessarily anymore. But rock and roll will never die as far as I'm concerned. I would love to play some modular rock and roll too. I do have a couple ideas and dreams to still realize and accomplish, so this is going to be that tool that I'm going to use to do it. Thanks a lot very much for tuning in. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. I look forward to seeing what happens with you guys and this system throughout the rest of the year. Have a great weekend.